Hey guys, and welcome back for another tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make an adult tie. This has been a video I've been wanting to make for years now. I made one for children a long time ago and it is one of my best videos, but now I'm going to be showing you how to make an adult tie. So in this video you're going to be learning how to do some hand sewing as well as machine sewing. So you're going to need to know how to do those two things to be able to make this particular tie. It is a full tie that you would put on just like doing that regular Windsor knot, and on the back there's even a little loop here. So we have some cute little accent fabric right there, which is super cute. So you can make one for somebody special in your life this holiday season. If you're going to a crazy wear something funny or tie or sweater party, then you can make something really fun to wear. So of course with all my tutorials there will be a free template that you can download at the website. I'll have the links in the description box below. Go over there, print it out, cut it out, tape it all together. All the instructions will be there, and then I can meet you back here and we can make a tie together. I also want to mention, if you're not already, follow me on Instagram and Facebook. All those links are in the description box, and I also started a podcast called the Sewcial Hour. I'll leave that on the screen somewhere so that you can find it. We talk about all things sewing, so if you love sewing just as much as I do and you want to talk about it and you want to hear about it all day, we would love to have you over at the Sewcial Hour podcast on all of the podcast platforms and of course on YouTube. So without further ado, let's get straight into the tutorial. So I'm going to show you how to cut out your pattern first. So we're going to be cutting it out on the bias, which means we're going to cut it diagonally on the fabric. So you're just going to lay your fabric flat. You're going to line up the short side of the end of your tie with the selvage, and that's where usually the words are on your fabric. And then we're going to cut it diagonally. Take the second piece of your pattern and put that right next to the first piece and cut that out. Now our lining, I just wanted to mention that the pattern does come in two pieces, and I just went ahead and sewn it all together so it's one long piece. This has a little bit of stretch in it, so I'm not too worried about cutting it on the bias, but a lot of people would recommend you do cut this interfacing piece on the bias if you're making it out of a fabric. Okay, so I cut out all of my pieces. We have one large piece. That's going to be the front of our tie, and then we have the other end of our tie here. I went ahead and did some interfacing just on the tips so that I can make sure that my tie is nice and sharp. We have the lining for the end of the tie, and then the smaller lining for the other end of the tie. We have this, which is our little loop, so that we can tuck the back of our tie into the front of our tie. And then I'm going to be using fleece as my inner lining. If you wanted to just do a interfacing on the whole tie, you could do that, or use a felt. I went ahead and cut out this fleece because this is what I had. So that'll be really nice on the inside to give it some thickness. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take the outer fabrics of your tie, and they are in two pieces, and you want to make them one long piece. So I have, this is my wrong side and this is the right side. I'm going to take the end of my tie and I'm going to put them at a 90-degree angle. Now this is right sides together, and we're putting that, lining up these two angles here. And to achieve a perfect line, we're gonna leave the tips of our right angles just hanging over about 1/4 of an inch here and here. So you might want to put it like this to line it up, but what we're going to do is we're actually going to move it up about 1/4 of an inch so that the tips, and that's going to count for the seam allowance, and then it should all line up perfectly. Okay, so now we're just going to do 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. you go to fold it up, it should line up just like that, and we can cut off that little triangle piece right there. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to split my seam and then just give it a press. This is just going to keep everything nice and flat. If you're a quilter, then this is not foreign territory. We just want it to be, you don't want there to be like a bump in your tie. There we go. Okay, so now we can work on, so now we're gonna work on the ends of our ties, and we're gonna have a large piece that we're gonna place on here. This is actually gonna be smaller than the front of our tie, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew down the one side. We're gonna stop about a ½ inch away, and then we're going to take the fabric and we are going to bring it over to the other side and do the same thing and leave about a ½ inch away. This is going to kind of inlay the fabric. It's going to look a lot nicer and you won't end up seeing it from the front. Okay, so I'm just going to do a ½ inch seam allowance. I'm going to sew down the short end. We're going to stop at the corner, pivot, and sew all the way down. We're gonna stop about right here, leaving that like a ½ inch. And now we're going to take our fabric and we are going to kind of force it to the corner. I'm gonna start a ½ or a ½ inch up. And then sew. And we want this to line up as well. And sew up. And then lock your stitches. Okay, so that's how it's going to be. So it's kind of going to be like puckered weird, which is okay. So I was going to show you the sewing machine, but I think I better just come over here. This part can be a little confusing. It was confusing for me, so it's kind of like bunched, and it's kind of weird. So what you're going to do next is you're going to take your tie and you're going to fold it in half. Okay? And it might not want to do what you want it to do. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to do a straight stitch right across here, and that's going to go, see where you stopped your stitches right here. I'm going to zoom you in. The stitches just stopped right here, so I'm going to sew right across here, and that's going to kind of join those two stitches on either side, and by some magic it's gonna be pointed and look good. I don't know, we'll see. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so I made that marking with my Sharpie, so I'm just gonna sew across. And then I'm going to cut off the excess fabric. Okay, so this is how it's going to look. Now I'm going to flip it with the right sides out. And we can use a poking tool, and that's going to go right into that corner. You're going to flatten and evenly iron out everything. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to sew down the one side. And then we're going to stop. And then we're going to pull it over take it out, clip off the end, and then we'll go press. Okay, so now we're going to take this little loop piece and we're just going to put the right sides together, and we will sew down the long edge. This is going to be our little tie looper so that you can tuck your tie, the back of the tie, into the front of the tie. Kind of makes your tie look a lot neater when you're wearing it. I'm just using this little loop turner. Of course, I'll leave a link for this little guy. That's what it looks like. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to press that, and then it will be ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to iron it, but I'm going to make the little seam there right centered in the middle. Just like that. I'm going to cut off the ends so that it is nice and clean. And then I'm just going to fold those sides in, and that's where we're going to sew it onto the back of our tie. So I'm just going to put some clips here just to hold it shut, and I'll just put that to the side until we are ready for it. That's how it's going to look. Okay, and now we will do the other one. I'll give you a closer look as to how it will look. Okay, so now we're going to flip it. And you got to make sure your iron is ready to go. Making a tie is very much about ironing and pressing and making sure everything is nice and flat and even and beautiful. So this is definitely a take your time, should be relaxing, not stressful. It's like tailoring. Okay. You want to look at the front of it, and you want to make sure that things are even and nice and nicely shaped. We want to give that a good press. And we want to make sure that these are poked out. Good. So the sides here, as you can see, they already want to kind of turn in. So you can go ahead and start turning in those sides. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead, and from here we're going to be doing some hand sewing. So we're going to take our little interface piece. I just kind of lined it up so that the tip is right here, and then I'm going to take it, I'm going to fold it back, lift this up, and then just tuck it right on in there. Now I'm going to take my sides and I'm going to fold them in on themselves, and that little interface piece will kind of tell you when to fold, and you're just going to make sure that it's kind of even on both sides. So if you need to move it over a little bit just so that it is perfectly square, and then you can start to iron. I like to start at one end and then kind of move my way down the tie because it's so long. If you do this on the ironing board, then you can have it all nicely laid out, which I would recommend for sure, because the tie will go the length of your ironing board and you can do it all at once. Okay, so then we're just going to flip it over. See how it's looking? It looks absolutely beautiful. And then we're just going to work down the tie, and we're going to try to make sure that everything is nice and even. You might need to move things over. If you want to do one side, and if this isn't perfectly straight, like, that is okay. This part will not be visible on the outside of the tie. The most important part is the front. And you're not gonna make, it's not gonna be perfect on the first try. It's just not. You know, we're not all perfect seamstresses who makes ties 50 times a day. So don't be too hard on yourself. Just go at your own pace. Okay, so everything is beautifully pressed. So now I'm going to be doing an invisible stitch, and I'm going to go right down the middle of my tie. I'm going to take my time and I'm going to go all the way down to the very end. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then we have our little looper here, and you're going to do that about 9 inches away from the bottom. So we're just going to measure up about 9 inches. And we're just going to place that right there, and then you can hand stitch that on as well. You're going to do it in a way that you're not going to penetrate the fabric in the front, and that's why we need to hand stitch it, because otherwise you're going to see those stitches on the front of your tie, and you don't want to do that. So we're going to wait until the end to do that, but we're going to work on that stitch all the way around. Okay, so you're going to want to get comfortable for this. I have my thread. I'm going to be using a fine needle. It's going to give me the best dexterity, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tie a little loop at the end of my thread. I just like to take my thread, loop it around, and then I just kind of do that. It's a messy knot, but it works. Okay, so we're going to work on the first end. So we're going to put something called a bar tack, and basically what that is we're going to, I'm going to start from underneath here, and it's just going to hide my knot. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go across to the fabric, do a stitch, which is going to go across. You will see these stitches. This is just going to give us a good hold on our first little stitch, like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and do another one. Like that. So that is how it's going to look. So of course I do recommend using a matching thread. So now I'm going to take my needle, and I'm going to do one more, but I'm going to go and I'm going to pick up a little bit of thread. I have a little piece, a little tail there. I'm just going to clip that off, get that out of there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down the fold of my fabric like that, poke. And you can make these stitches fairly long because there's not going to be a lot of stress on these stitches. And then we're going to grab a little piece of that fabric. Okay, and then you're going to go back to the fold, and we're going to go down that fold again. You can go in 1/2 inch. Like that. Grab a piece of just very small and as you can see, you can't even barely see it. We're going to go back into the fold, go up it again, pull it out, try to keep things nice and flat. Back into the fold. And you really want to come out on the fold. So we're going to keep going. We're going to do this. Okay, and make sure we don't tug on this because we don't want to end up cinching that up. Okay, so I went ahead and put on the one side, and I just kind of did my little invisible stitch again. So I'm going to take my needle. I have the knot already done. I go in from the inside so I can hide that knot under there, and then I can take a little bit of my fabric from the tie. We don't want to go through the fabric to the front of the tie because we want this just to be on the back layer. And then we're going to go through the fold, and then we'll go back to the tie, and then back up to the fold, and just do it how you think it works best for you. And then if you pull it taut, this doesn't need to be super strong because it's just going to be holding on to the back of the tie. So I'm just putting some reinforcement stitches. And that's pretty much it. I'm just working my way back up it, just to make sure it is secure, even though it doesn't need to be super strong. Okay, it's not the best, and I don't wear ties, but I think I did a pretty good job. Look at that. So yeah, we made a tie, guys. Look at how cute. I'm obsessed. I don't know why it took me this long to make a tie, but now I can make all of them. And I'm interested in going over to like the fabric store and trying to get like some really nice, you know, the fabrics that you'd see at the tie store. And if I can make, you know, some really nice fancy ties, and then make my husband wear them. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Comment down below if you have any questions. Check out the links in the description. And of course, follow me over on Instagram and TikTok. I'm extremely active over there, so you can kind of hang out with me. If you want to send me a message, DM, any questions, you want to chat, I am here for you. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next tutorial. Bye guys.